Good evening. Let's call to order the Charter Review Committee meeting of December 4th at 5:01 p.m. The city does not tolerate disruptive behavior in our meetings. Sunnyvale prides itself on the rich diversity of our residents. We are committed to creating a culture of belonging where members of our diverse community feel included, safe, and respected. This Charter Review Committee meeting is considered a limited public forum, which means the committee can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech. Speaker comments must be limited to the agenda item being considered by the committee for consent calendar or public hearing items. Speaker comments during oral communications must be limited to matters within the committee's authority, generally referred to as within the committee's subject matter jurisdiction. If a speaker's comments are not related to an agenda item, the presiding officer will rule the speaker out of order. A speaker will not be ruled out of order because of a disagreement with the content of their speech. Location and online meeting details are available on the Charter Review Committee's agenda. Use the Show Captions button to view captions on Zoom. Comments on matters not on the agenda must be submitted prior to the time I call the item for oral communications. Comments on agenda items must be submitted prior to the time I close the public hearing on the agenda item. Speakers are requested to keep their comments to the time period set for public comments for the agenda item, which will be strictly enforced. Guidelines are posted on the city's website and on the Charter Review Committee meeting agenda. And now, please join me for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, may we please have the roll call?
Chair Larson,
Here.
Vice Chair Wickham,
Here.
Member Philly,
Here.
Member Davis,
Present.
Member Wee,
Present.
Member Olofsson,
Present.
Member Pine,
Present.
Member Rubino,
Present.
Member Newswanger,
Here.
and Member Vickery.
Here.
Thank you. 10 present.
Thank you. This is now the public's opportunity. So this is oral communications now, and this is the public's opportunity to address the committee on topics not listed on tonight's agenda. The section is limited to 15 minutes and may be extended or continued after the public hearings general business section of the meeting. Individuals may only speak once during oral communications. This Charter Review Committee meeting is a limited public forum, and the committee can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech. Speaker comments during oral communications must be limited to matters within the committee's authority, which is known as the committee's subject matter jurisdiction. If a speaker's comments are outside the committee's subject matter jurisdiction, the presiding officer will rule the speaker out of order. This allows the committee to conduct its business in a reasonably efficient manner and protects the rights of other speakers. A speaker will not be ruled out of order because of the disagreement with the content of their speech. Please submit a speaker card to the city clerk, or raise your digital hand now, or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. The city clerk will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City Clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on oral communications?
Yes, first up is Zachary K., followed by Steve S.
I apologize for the first sentence. At the last meeting, it was pointed out It was a violation of free speech if the city council tried to extract a pledge from a prospective council appointee not to run for council immediately following their appointed term expiration. Presently in the charter, section 604 limits a council member to a combination of 2 terms as city council member and 1 as mayor, or 2 as mayor and 1 as a city council member before having to take a 4-year break. In other words, a certain pattern on council and you have to take a break. This is identified as term limits. Now that pattern could be expanded to cover appointed terms on council. If you served as an appointed capacity on council, you have to take a break. The process is presumably already there to handle other term-limited candidates. The 1975 reform preventing appointee incumbency advantage needn't go away because of the cost of special elections. I don't think the concept of term limits existed in 1975. So it is impinging on rights. California voters approved term limits for their state legislators. You get 12 years in the body and then you're gone for life. Forget just a couple of years. That is kosher. It would seem term limiting an appointee council member to their present term before a reasonable break is feasible via the charter. All it takes is will.
Next up is Steve S.
I had not planned to talk because Chair Larson already handled my big deal. But hearing Mr. Kaufman there, I can add something. There has been a little research that we found about term limits or being able to not have a person run for something. I think it was either the California Supreme Court or the U.S. Supreme Court on that. So there is more information about in certain circumstances, saying that communities have a right to define who is a member of their community, who's established in their community to be able to run. And that ruling did go beyond 30 days, definitely. So in the future, we might want to look at that. Thanks.
Chair, that was the final in-person public speaker for oral communications, and there are no remote individuals indicating a desire to speak under oral communications.
Thank you. So with that, I will go ahead and close oral communications. And now we move to the consent calendar. We'll start with public comment. I'll go ahead and open public comment on the consent calendar item. Please submit a speaker card to the city clerk or raise your digital hand now or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. The city clerk will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on a consent calendar item?
No, Chair.
Okay, one more call from anyone in the room. Not seeing anyone. City clerk, do we have any remote participants wishing to speak on a consent calendar item?
No, Chair.
Thank you. I will close public comment. And now I will see if are there any comments from my colleagues? Otherwise, a motion is in order. Member Wee, followed by Member Davis.
Well, I'd like to move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I consent calendar.
Yeah. Member Davis.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no requests for comments, so we will, City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
First up, Member Olafson. How do you
Yes.
vote? Chair Larson.
Yes.
Member Davis.
Yes.
Member Pine.
Abstain.
Member Duswanger.
Yes.
Member Wee.
Yes.
Member Vickery.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wickham.
Yes.
Member Rubino.
Yes. Yes.
and Member Philly.
Yes.
The motion carries 9-0-1 with Member Pine abstaining.
Thank you. And now we move to public hearings, general business. Item 25-0559, approved Charter Review Committee report. This is agenda item number 2. So this is our big item for this evening, and wanted to let everyone know that we're going to hear this in 5 sections because there's a lot to the report. The first section will be general comments on the report and also Charter Section 611, which is City Council meeting schedule. After that, we will take the other reports one by one. So we'll go City Council and Mayor compensation, followed by council vacancies, then City Manager authority to settle claims, and finally, Public Works and contracting. So we'll have a public hearing on each of those sections and a chance for the committee to comment. I will give the appropriate subcommittee a chance to give a report if they wish, completely optional. I think we've all heard these items many times. We generally know, we've read the reports, we know what's in there, but in a few cases, there may be new information in the report. So that's an opportunity to underscore the new information. So subcommittee report, we'll have our questions, public comment on it, and then we'll bring it back to the committee. And that will be the time for a formal vote on that section. So because this is the final report, we do need a official, recorded, formal motion and vote to approve each section. We're not going to take an overall vote on the whole report. We're going to do it section by section. So that just wanted to lay out the process for everyone. So the very first thing, though, is a staff report. Do we have a staff report?
Good evening, Chair. Connie Versailles, Deputy City Manager. Very briefly, thank you to the committee for providing the information. The report in front of you is a compilation of all of the reports that were submitted by the subcommittees and what staff did. And I do want to give credit to Melissa Tronque, who's been my partner through this process, who really did the bulk work on putting this report together. But what we did is we took the subcommittee's reports, put it in a format that the city follows for styles, for guidelines, the way, we normally write reports. So that's what you see. This is really the committee's work, just compiled in a way that the reports that we normally do from staff to council. Tonight's goal is for us to get your final approval on the final report. Thank you, Chair, for explaining the process, so I don't have to, on how you want to do this. But our goal tonight is to get a final report that for next steps we can take to council in a joint session between the committee and the council. And depending on how tonight goes, we will look at the agenda. We're looking at something at a council meeting in February, but I will make sure that we'll let the committee know when that date is finalized, because it is based on how the agendas are looking. But again, that's the goal for tonight, and both Melissa and I are here to answer any questions that you may have. But we really just want to hear from the committee.
Thank you very much. So now we're going to start with our first section tonight, which is general comments on the report, and also Charter Section 611, City Council meeting schedule. So let's start with questions from my colleagues. Do we have any questions on those parts of the report? All right, let's start with Vice Chair Wickham.
Yes, I just wanted to know if there are non-substantive editorial comments. Do we need to bring those up individually in this meeting, or can we submit them separately?
Yeah, if you want to, if they're short and quick, we are going to be making changes as we hear them tonight, or you can submit them later, as long as there's not substantive and it's just more grammar or style. We're happy to take them either way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd maybe encourage people to err on the side of sharing them tonight. If you're unsure of if they're substantive, just so the committee could have a chance to weigh in on that. But if it really is, oh, it's a misspelling or it's wrong tense or something like that, I think clearly just staff can take care of that later. Good question. Thank you. Member Vickery.
I actually have a related question. If we have 2 or 3 editorial things, would you rather we save those for the specific parts of the process that deal with the section, or if there are things like periods and question marks, can we just give them to you right now as general comments?
If they are things that, like, stylistic things that occur throughout the report?
No. They're not.
Okay. Okay, then if they're on specific sections, let's take them up when we get to those sections.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this first section? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Member Rubino.
Yeah, so page 5. On the section, voters did not approve the proposed amendments. Go down 2 paragraphs, the first bullet, as opposed to the next feasible, I think that's incomplete. Got it?
Member Newswanger.
Sorry, yeah, she's right. As opposed to the next feasible, it should say, I think,
And
feasible election. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter, does it?
actually, I think, is that for, let's see, page 5, never mind. Okay. Yep, this is general section. Thank you.
I'm just pointing it out. I have no idea what it should be.
Okay. Member Pine.
I would perhaps suggest the next feasible statewide election to end that sentence.
Well, I think we should just copy the language from the memorandum of, the colleagues' memorandum.
And Member Vickery.
The language from the colleagues' memorandum is just the word election, and I think that would do it. Just adding the word election.
Okay. All right. Staff, getting a thumbs up from staff. They understand. Okay. So anything else from the committee at this point? Nope. Okay. So go ahead and open the public hearing for general comments on the report and Charter Section 611, City Council meeting schedule. Please submit a speaker card to the city clerk or raise your digital hand now or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. The city clerk will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on this item, specifically general comments on the report and Charter Section 611, City Council meeting schedule?
Yes, first up is Zachary K, followed by Steve S.
Just to make life easier for some of us that are a bit inept, could you possibly give page numbers when you're doing sections, physical page numbers, starting, this section starts on physical page number this and ends on this. Thank you.
Next up is Steve S.
Thank you, Chair Larson, for breaking this up and things. On the general comments and there was a handout given to you. And so on page 2 of the handout, which I have to find that here. Let's see. How do I do? Does it work? There it goes. All right, page 2, middle of the page, meeting schedule, your charter recommendations look good to me. On general comments, I have 3 places on the first page of your handout, page 5. I noticed that in other places, you have called out percentage of votes that occurred in 1975 and that sort of things. I would ask you on page 5 to specifically say the results of 2024 Measure F did not approve the proposed amendments by 62.22%. I'd like to have that added, please. Page 6, item 2 on this page here. Thank you very much for recognizing the contributions of Mr. Kaufman and myself. If you would be so kind, from a vein standpoint, I'd love it if you put our name somewhere. You could do it in line in the paragraph, or you could have it in a separate list underneath the list of the individual people there with a different topic. I would appreciate that. And thank you so much for that recognition. If you go to the last page, page 7, there is another general comment, number 12 on the last page, page 7. Pages 23 through 32, great background. There's a lot of background there. However, it's a bit difficult to follow outside of being a CRC brainiac. It's just a question. Might it be possible to simplify and shorten a bit? I've done a lot of document writing and legal writing and technical writing, and sometimes you have to not be so detailed for the regular people reading it. So I don't know how we do that, but those pages are a little heavy on going back and forth on paragraphs. Let me see if, because I have 49 seconds left, if there's another general one. I think those are all the general ones for there. So thank you very much for your indulgence. Thank you.
Chair, that is the final in-person public speaker. There is at least one online speaker.
Okay, thank you. So now we will go to remote speakers. Remote speakers are warned to limit their comments to the agenda item being considered. Speakers who are ruled out of order will not be given another chance to speak on this item. This is for agenda item 250559, specifically general comments on the report and charter section 611. City Clerk, do we have any remote participants wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, Chair. First up is Daniel H. Daniel, you've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes to address the committee.
Thank you, David. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, members of the Charter Review Committee. I see so many familiar faces because I wanted to thank you for your work. I wish I could have been there in person. I can't, but on Zoom, I wanted to thank you all because you folks have shown, not just in the Charter Review Committee, but I've seen you all over town, constantly looking after the affairs of the city, just being true statesmen and women doing this necessary work. So I really appreciate the effort that you guys have put forth. As far as the product of the Charter Review Committee, I have not gone into great detail, but what I do appreciate, just the top line element, is paying the city council members and the mayor an appropriate salary so that folks who maybe aren't retired can consider serving the city in that capacity. I think that we did great moving to districts, and we've got so much more diversity now, and this just empowers people to serve their city. So just thanks again for all the hard work. Thanks for making the city charter a little bit better, and happy holidays. Thank you so much.
Chair, that was the final remote speaker at this time.
Thank you. So I will, guess the wording is suspend the public hearing so I can reopen it later for the next section. I'll now ask for additional comments from my fellow committee members, and then we're going to lead up to a motion. So let's start with comments. Member Wee, followed by Member Vickery.
It occurs to me, given how we're breaking this up, I'm not sure if it was really required for notice purposes, but it would be helpful to have actually it chopped up in the agenda so people could organize their notes when they came. You aren't hopping around trying to figure out what to apply to where. It just for future note for us, it would be really helpful to, if we're coming up with a strategy to break it up, to maybe have separate sections so people know that, oh, we're done with this section and now this is the next one to expect. I have no other comments on this otherwise. Thank you.
Member Vickery.
It seems to me that the suggestion of reporting the vote on page 5 is a good one. I don't think the specific language by 62.2% is accurate. I assume it was 62.22% against and then 37.784. But that the difference between those two is not obviously 62%. So I think including the vote, but including in the way that represents accurately the totals for and against would be good. I'm not sure that it needs to be to 2 decimal places personally, but that could be a matter of disagreement. I understand.
We do have a number of engineers and scientists.
I
here.
get it. I get it.
This is Sunnyvale.
I know. I like it anyway.
All right, any other comments before we get to a motion? Discussion. Okay, we have, and I realized I forgot to ask if the subcommittee that did the report on this had any report they want to make, but I think since we'd taken a vote at a previous meeting, there really wasn't anything. So if you have a report, raise your hand and let me know, but otherwise we'll push on ahead. So seeing nothing else, a motion would be in order. We are, a reminder, we're considering the general sections of the report. So that's both at the beginning and there's a brief conclusion on page 32. And we're also considering the, let's see, let me get the right section. I don't want to mess this up. The section on Charter Section 611 council meeting schedule. Do we have a motion? Start with Member Rubino, followed by Member Pine.
I just want a clarification. So we're going up to page 8, is that correct?
It's, let's see, it would be, look at the table of contents, up to page 8.
Okay, thank you.
Plus, no, there's more.
Okay.
The council meetings schedule section 3, which is pages 22 and 23, and the conclusion on page 32 and attachments after that.
Okay, 22 and 23, and what was the other one?
Page 32.
Okay. Can you wait a few seconds, please? Thank you.
Sure. Would you like us to circle back to you?
No, I'm okay. I'm just checking it. I hope I'm not the only one doing that.
Okay. Why don't we have several other people queued up, so why don't we move on to Member Pine, followed by Member Newswanger.
Thank you. I was going to take a stab at a motion if that's.
Yes, please.
Okay. I move that we adopt the report, the draft report, subject to the changes that were suggested in the discussion tonight. As the following, insofar as it includes section 1, introduction, section 3, city council meeting schedule, section 4, conclusion, section 5, attachments 1 through 5. And the recommendation in section 2 regarding the prefatory language and item 3, city council meeting schedule. That was very granular. Let me know if you want us less granular.
I appreciate the precision.
Yes, because we can't do we can't adopt all of section 2 before we get to the other items.
Understood. So let's see if we have a second for that motion. Member Newswanger.
I would second that. And when you say including the changes in the discussion, does that mean the language that says on page 5, voters did not approve the proposed amendments by a vote of X percent yes and Y percent no?
That as well as the opposed to the next feasible election language that was pointed out by committee member Rubino.
Thank you. Then I second the motion.
Good. We have a motion and a second. Thank you for those clarifications. And now any discussion or advocacy? Let's start with member Vickery, followed by. Do you want to speak to your motion? Oh, sorry, it's been a while since we've had a formal motion. Wow, I'm out of practice. Okay, member Pine.
I think this is straightforward. I don't think it needs a lot of discussion. We disposed of the council meeting schedule changes previously, and I think I don't think there's any need to revisit wanting to amend 611. After all, I think all the introductory stuff is great. The conclusion is essentially we respectfully submit, so that's trivial. The attachments I included were the ones that were all the stuff that got referenced. The remaining 4 attachments are going to be the summary of the charter amendments and the graphs. And I actually realized I want to put one back into the motion. So with the request of member Newswanger, I would like to, can I do a friendly amendment to my own motion, or do I need to?
Of course.
For that? Okay. I'd like to do a friendly amendment to my own motion to include attachment 9, which is the city council meeting schedules attachment.
And let me just formally check with member Newswanger to see if that's okay. Hold on, let me get you on. There we go.
Yes, I accept that friendly emotion.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think any of this is particularly controversial. I think staff did a great job in putting all of it together. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to member Davis, followed by member Rubino.
I had a kind of picayune process question. How will our signatures actually be affixed to this?
So we were actually just talking about that. Historically, we've had all of the charter review committee members sign for prior committees, just because I think, people like that after a year of work. It's not necessarily required. We have DocuSign now, so my thought was we could just email it to all of you and have you sign via DocuSign, but you're voting on the whole report tonight anyway, so it's not technically required, but it is sort of tradition for charter review committees, so.
DocuSign's fine with me. It is kind of interesting to think that my signature means something for a change other than writing checks. Thank you for humoring me. As to the motion itself, I support it. So thank you.
Yeah, boy, my DocuSign signature is not very pretty, but if that's what gets memorialized, well, okay. Okay, let's go to member Wee, followed by member Philly.
Thank you, Chair. And regarding signatures, I actually would like to do it the old way with pen and paper if we can at the end. It's a nice concluding ceremony versus doing the digital thing. I do the digital thing all the time. It's fun to do it the traditional way once in a while. Yeah, I'm supporting this motion, although I do wish that we had sections up a little more linearly, because hopping around trying to figure out, oh, so which parts are we referring to? Because it says sections and the numbering, it's not very consistent, because sometimes there's Roman numerals, sometimes there's numbers, and it's just a little confusing when you're paging back and forth, trying to make sure you see, what are we really voting on? It would have been nice to just linearize it and make it easier to follow, as well as to make comments on. But yes, I am supporting the motion. Thank you.
Next is Member Philly, followed by Member Rubino.
I just wanted to point out that on page 8 in number 4, there is a section that is highlighted that's to be added based on this meeting. So I'm not sure if we're doing cart and horse type of thing where we need to agree on that before we can confirm that this is correct.
That section, which I think is highlighted in yellow.
Yes.
Is that you're referring to? Yeah, we will take that up in a later part when we
Right.
talk about the authority. We're not approving that particular section right now.
Okay. But we're approving the language. No. Okay.
It was just the first section.
Okay. I thought it went to 8, so my apologies.
Oh, yeah, I think
Yeah.
okay, let's go to Member Pine. I think he will be more articulate than I am.
So I was aware of this issue, which is why I phrased the motion very carefully to say that it included the prefatory language in section 2, which is the very bottom paragraph of page 7. The CRC discussed each of the charter amendments after review reached the following recommendations. And it included and paragraph 3, which is the one regarding city council meeting schedule. It did not include, my motion does not include numbered items 1, 2, 4, 5, or the reference to attachment 6. Because we will be dealing with those later.
All right, Member Rubino.
Oh, Martin, I really appreciate you, because we need to figure out what pages these are and then have that as part of the motion. Because this is extraordinarily confusing.
Are you asking for page numbers on this motion, or are you just
Yeah.
saying going forward on future motions
I
to?
think we should do it on this one, and I think Martin just did that. So I think we should indicate, we have to be really specific, I think.
I mean, for staff purposes, we're tracking all the changes that you're proposing for the report. So I'm tracking. I don't know that I don't personally need page numbers in order to make the changes associated with the motion.
Okay, I'm stupider than that. What I'd really like to do is get the page numbers, and then someone can create, a PowerPoint thing tonight, and we can actually see what we did. I know that's really.
You're
tricky.
approving the whole report tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and the report has sections, so and it's bookmarked in the report, so, but I guess.
Okay, if you can track it, that's fine. Okay.
And I think the subsequent items will be simpler because there's one section of the report plus a paragraph in
Yes.
section 2, which is the summary.
Got it.
This is the complicated one.
Okay.
I thought this would be the simple one. This is the complicated one. Okay, clearly I did not think this through enough.
No,
Thank you
did,
for
because
indulging
those
me.
are adults.
All right, do we have any other comments or advocacy on the motion? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to a vote. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
First up, Member Wee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Pine?
Yes.
Chair Larson?
Yes.
Member Newswinger?
Yes.
Member Olafson?
Yes.
Member Vickery,
Yes.
Member Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wickham,
Yes. Yes.
Member Rubino,
Yes.
and Member Philly.
Yes.
The motion carries 10-0.
Great. Thank you very much. So now we will move on to the next part, which is Charter Section 605, City Council and Mayor Compensation. This is on pages 8 through 13. And of course, there's the paragraph summary in section 2. So first, we'll see if the subcommittee has any comments that they'd like to make on their report. Member Davis, I forgot which subcommittee this is. Is this a subcommittee report?
Yes.
Okay. Please, oh, there we go. Oh, there, please go ahead.
So I thought I should say a few things because I guess this saw the most changes from the last meeting. We had the most discussion about this. We took the feedback with all the straw votes and implemented it within the verbiage. As far as the three of us could tell and city staff, it accurately reflects the decisions made in the last meeting. And that's where it is. We did try to be economical. We kind of echoing Mark Twain, we did take the time to make it shorter, right? And economical with the language, because this really could have gone on forever. The eventual change that is being proposed would be a single line within the charter. So I think that's rather elegant, and elegance is hard work sometimes. So, and that's essentially where the report is. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Now let's see if the committee has any questions on this section. We'll start with Member Rubino, followed by Member Vickery.
Okay, just take mine with a grain of salt, please. On page 9, first, the second complete paragraph that starts with drawing on data. I think you need to, this is the first introduction of the American Community Survey. And I think you need something there like you did further on. I can't remember what page it's on, but you need to say what that is as part of the census, yada, yada stuff. And then on the next, on background, perhaps in 1992, that paragraph, it says the scope of Sunnyvale government was similar to a general law city. Well, we weren't a general law city. We were a charter city in 1992. So I'm a little confused on that one. So maybe that needs a little explanation.
Thank you.
And then the other thing I just want to mention on the total is I think personally, I think it would be nice to see what other cities around us and in the state of California are paying their council members. And it would have the population of the city and then the salaries. And you could do, like size cities, like, Santa Rosa, yada, yada.
Okay.
That's it. I'll stop.
All right. Member Vickery, followed by Member Pine.
On page 12, it says that the proposed revisions are, and my understanding is that paragraphs 2 and 3 are not changed at all. Is that correct? My further understanding was that in paragraph 1, all that would be changed would be the commencing date would now be January 1, 2027. The council salary would now be $6,000 and the mayor's salary would be $9,000. And in the way I've seen amendments presented, I thought that meant that we would merely strike over January 1, 2012, insert underline January 1, 2027, strike over 2,088.64 and add underlined 6,000, strike over 2,784.86 and add underlined 9,000. I assumed that's the way the amendment would be presented, but I may be wrong about that.
Let me check with staff on this. I know on the other sections, there was like a redlining, except red was blue, but this one, it may have just been a formatting issue, but I think it's an important point of what change is being proposed here. What's the intention? Let me get your microphone back on. There we go.
If I could, what I really am getting at is that I assume we would not want to keep a charter provision that tells us what we had in 2012 and what we have now in 2027. So that's why I'm assuming we're just striking over the date, inserting the new one, striking over the amounts, inserting the new ones.
Yeah, so I can check with staff and also the committee if
Yeah, it looks
So-
like in the final report, the sentence that says commencing January 1st, 2027 should have been an underline. I don't know what happened there. Member Vickery, I understand what you're saying. I think it could be done either way. I don't know that I have a strong preference. Yeah, I don't have a strong preference.
Good. I'll just interject with one suggestion of why you might want to keep the 2012 information is because unless we're changing the CPI base year, that sort of ties together that whole section. Because if you're changing the CPI base year that related to the 2027 change, sure. But if you're still starting with that base year, then you're showing the context of kind of why that date was picked. Showing that it was that base year was picked, salaries were set, and then at a later date, salaries were changed, but you're still using the same base year.
Because we didn't get direction from the committee to change that base year. And I don't know if analysis was done. I don't know what the difference would be.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay, let's, Member Davis, do you want to weigh in on this?
Sure. This was, we didn't really discuss the language as it would be in the charter. So I'm speaking a little bit ad hoc here. In the meeting, we discussed that at some point we will likely have to do this again because wages in Sunnyvale are very likely to increase faster than inflation, right? There's just so much economic growth that's been going on, and it's not stopping. We don't want it to stop, and so on. So I kind of like leaving the history in so that the next charter review committee doesn't have to spend a lot of time finding it. That's just a personal preference. It's kind of potato or potato or tomato, I guess. So, but I think either way of doing it seems to be legally valid. So I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other.
Okay, Member Vickery, did you have a?
I do have a strong opinion.
Okay.
And I think charters and statutes are supposed to state the law as it is, not the law as it used to be. And I think it might be confusing to voters to see that historical information in what they're voting on. So, I mean, when I used to draft legislation, we certainly, would make these changes. When I taught legislative drafting, these are the way we would make changes. So it would seem odd to me to leave in inoperative language just because of its historical value.
And do you have a recommendation, since this end of the second paragraph does reference a base year of 2012, a recommendation on how to handle that? Oh, Sorry. There we go.
I think I'd have to know what the intention of the subcommittee was. If the intention of the subcommittee is to provide cost of living adjustments commencing with the new salary and annually based on percentages equal to percentage increase, then you would strike January 1, 2013 and insert January 1, 2027 or 2028? 2028. I think that's the way you would do that. You'd strike January 1, 2013 and insert January 1, 2028, because it seems as though we want a 1-year gap in order to start computing the increases.
I'm just processing your last comment. So you were saying that this language would set the salary for 2027 and then the adjustments commence 2028, the following year. Oh, sorry, I have to turn on your mic.
Correct,
Okay.
which means it would follow the same pattern as 2020,
Got it.
as 2012 and
Yeah,
2013.
Okay. Okay, I see that now.
And,
All right.
and of course, I actually misspoke when I suggested you would strike January 1, 2012. You would actually just strike the 2012 and insert 2027. And then in the second paragraph, you'd strike the 2013 and insert 2028.
Okay, we'll continue with the committee, and I'm going to keep noodling on that. We'll go to member Wee, followed by member Rubino.
Okay, now I've got a series of things in my head I'm going to need to address. So regarding member Rubino's earlier comment about including salaries from other cities, we'd actually, our committee did look at all of that, and we considered about whether to include it in the report or not, and decided not to, because it was a very large volume of very confusing data, and we wanted to focus on what does it take to live in Sunnyvale, and not worry so much about necessarily what other cities and their different economic situations. It got very confusing because we started looking at, okay, so what's their budget, how complicated they are, there's a lot of information there. And so I think it's too late for us to go back and think about how to rationally include 20 or 30 pages worth of data in a table in this to try to make it, to properly address that. So I'm actually very comfortable with where we arrived at for our committee of how we phrased it. Now, as far as the language that goes into the charter, I kind of like having the 2012 and 2027 in the first paragraph at least in here, because that basically charter is still effective, and then this overrides it. So I mean, it does work because it says starting 2012, and then that does become old. But there's some other parts of our charter that are a little old, saying that something stops at a particular time. It makes it a little longer. I'm okay either way. And regarding the CPI adjustment, the cost of living adjustment, I'm not sure, we didn't really actually think about that date per se. We just said, rather than trying to introduce a new method of incrementing, we'll just let the continue method continue. So we only make the minimal change. So we were really thinking of just replacing we're updating the date and replacing one number with a different number. But now that we have, so when they vote on this, I guess, is there an effectivity date for this that's applied separately? I wasn't sure if everything starts on January 1st for all these changes, and the current charter is current until the beginning of the year, or if it's just this section that is, like, when does it take effect? Does it take as soon as they vote on it, it says yes, then it's instant, or is there a date that's outside of the charter that says when these charter changes actually take place? That's a question for staff.
There's two pieces to this. So if this is approved as a charter change, the charter will change, but then the salary change, because it says in the measure, the salary change would not take effect until January 1st, 2027.
So this would be, much further. Well, let's see. The vote's coming in 2026, so a little bit after that, 2027.
Yeah, usually we have to certify the results of the election. Usually that happens in December, but it has taken longer.
So then it'd be
Depends on the
retroactive to longer.
election. Usually it happens in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do like establishing the new cost of living index date to 2027. 28 and 7 for the reference numbers. No, that's it for my comments on this. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks. We'll go back to Member Rubino, followed by Vice Chair Wickham.
Okay, I just want to point out on the second paragraph on the fourth line up, in no event shall the CPIU, you make the CPIU consistent, the CPI with a hyphen U. And then the other thing, I just want to explain that the cost of living in the Bay Area is done quarterly, and that's why it's based on October, not December, because December's data doesn't come out until like January or February. So there's a lag, so that's why it's based on October.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wickham, followed by Member Davis.
Yeah, so I think we've agreed we need to show what is lined out and what is new. Is that okay? And then I'm not sure that we decided on the last sentence in the second paragraph of the 605 compensation change, where it says CPIU base index year shall be calendar year 2012. And does it matter? Like, should we just, does it matter what the base year is? And since we started this in 2013 and we've been incrementing it ever since then, if we change the base year to 2027, does that, what effect does that have?
So is that a question for staff, perhaps?
For this subcommittee.
Subcommittee. Okay, so we'll go to Member Davis, who was up next anyway.
Okay, so taking the last one first, as Member Rubino was pointing out, inflation numbers come out quarterly with a delay. So having something take place in January, you need to go back a quarter. So that the last sentence, the base index year, you would want to say 2027. Otherwise, we would have to retroactively, like we won't have a 2028 number come out until well after January 1st. So it's just kind of a bookkeeping accounting thing, right? Going back to an earlier point about the paragraph where we start off with saying that Sunnyvale is not comparable to a general law city. The paragraph before actually, it's just kind of a grammar thing. Last sentence in the paragraph before explains why the introduction to the next paragraph is stating that. And then going back to putting in what other cities are paying, there is no pattern across the state as to why cities are paying what they are paying. There's no pattern in most cases. It doesn't seem to be that there's much thought in it. Where there is more thought, they've been more deliberate about it. The only example I can really come up with is Berkeley. Nobody really wants to compare Sunnyvale to Berkeley. Where Berkeley sits in the, I'll say, the public imagination, I feel like the conversation would just bog down, right? So we used it. It was instructive. We spent a lot of time finding that data, found a lot of different sources for it. Similarly with just charters in general, they are just all over the place. And I think it just clutters up the conversation. Let's do what's right for Sunnyvale, and other cities can figure out what's right for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Olofsson, followed by Member Rubino.
Thank you. I'd just like to circle back to the suggestion that Member Vickery made. If we leave in the commencing January 2012, and then come back to January 2027 in the next sentence, I see that as confusing for folks that haven't spent a lot of time like we have going through this section of the charter. And as a government entity, our charter should not be a historical document so much as leaving that in, because when this is amended, there's always at the bottom of that section some notes saying amended on this date, amended on that date. So it's fairly easy to go back and find out what the prior one was if someone is so inclined. So I'd really recommend that we delete the reference to January 2012, that sentence starting commencing and ending per month, and then leave in the commencing January 1, 2027 and ending per month. It just makes it much clearer on what the instructions are to the governing body that has to live by this charter. Adding verbiage that we think is explanatory, I would only have someone have to start pondering, now, what do they really mean? So I'd really like to get it as simple as we can. I agree with the comment about the CPIU. If this goes into effect in November of 26, if the charter is amended to with these changes, the 2026 compensation is already established. So we're not having to worry about that. But for January 1st of the next year, we would need CPI data, and so the wording should reflect something like the most recent CPI data for this CPIU data for this statistical metropolitan area. Thank you.
Next is Member Rubino, followed by Member Vickery.
Hold on, I've lost my page. This is horrible. The more you look at this, the more it gets nuts. Okay, so the last part of that, of the second paragraph, the last sentence, the CPIU base index year shall be calendar year 2012. That's technically, I don't think, correct, because you're taking the data from October rather than December. So in order to determine what the salary will be going forward. So if the base year would be the calendar year, then you're basing it on December's data, not October's data. So I think going forward, we should strike that last sentence, the CPI base index year shall be calendar year. Strike that, because it's not the calendar year, it's the October data, because you don't get the December data until January. And I could be wrong, it could be February, I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, there's a lag because it takes a while to get the data.
Okay, thank you. Member Vickery.
I would like to propose a motion.
We still have to have the public hearing.
Sorry, I would not like to do that.
Have a drink of water.
Okay. Seeing no other comments at this point, I will go ahead and reopen the public hearing. But now on Charter Section 605, City Council and Mayor Compensation. Please submit a speaker card to the city clerk or raise your digital hand now or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. City clerk will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, first up is Zachary K., followed by Steve S.
There's two halves to this comment. The first one is most of these sort of meetings, not in general that I've been to, not specifically charter review, but this style of thing. What ends up happening is the document that you're talking about, especially if you're editing, is displayed. And what that lets you do is, like, if there's some part of it that you're interested in, you could scroll down and look at your stuff and then look up or something like that and be able to get back in sync with everybody else. And also be able to view the changes that are going in. I don't know if we can do that live, but I think it would improve everybody's experience. So that's the first comment. Now on to the guts. On page 9, under B background, there's that part about, I think I have enough time to read it. Perhaps in 1992, the scope of Sunnyvale's government was similar to General Law City. This is not the case in 2025. The neighboring General Law City to the south is dependent on the county or private companies for garbage services, library services, law enforcement, fire protection, and wastewater services. Meanwhile, the city of Sunnyvale is independent in all these areas, and its transfer station also serves Mountain View, and its wastewater treatment plant also covers parts of Cupertino. I think that's cherry picking. I mean, you're kind of picking the most extreme example in terms of justifying what you're doing. If you lose there's other things like, for example, Santa Clara has its own stadium to concern with and to keep its eye on. It also provides electricity, another thing Sunnyvale doesn't do to its own residents. Mountain View has Shoreline, and they have their Performing Arts Center. Palo Alto provides electrical power to its residents. So it's not that Sunnyvale necessarily has all these things that none of the others have. It's a bit, I think, misleading personally, but I would like you to actually reconsider what you did there. Let's see. As far as the other cities for reference, I like that idea. And I'm going to give some feedback in terms of, you don't have to have it all over the place. I think if you use cities that have similar sort of economies to make things, gives apple to apple comparisons. So for example, Palo Alto, Mountain View, Santa Clara, maybe Redwood City, South San Francisco for biotech. I mean, it is tech. Cupertino does have a whole lot of Apple. And on page 11, which I think is still in this correct section, the amount of material a council member must review often runs over 1,000 pages per council meeting. I don't know if that's true. Did that come out of you, Gustav? No, okay. I could easily buy 200 pages. 1,000 seems a little high. Maybe in Larson's first 6 years or something like that, 4 years. Council meetings seem to have a lot more material. There were a lot of projects coming through or whatever, but I really doubt these days that you have 1,000 pages of material for our council. So I don't know where that came from, but maybe somebody could justify where it came from.
Next up is Steve S.
Hello again. You can pull out your highlighters for the pages. So this is on the compensation. On page 1 of my handout, page 8, let's see if we can get that up here. Whoops. Can we get the presentation? We're getting it. Let's see here. All right, here page. So on page 8, I think it's very problematic that we do not have a tie-in to comparable public roles. And I agree with the comments that's been made, General Law City and Charter. It's totally immaterial here. Please don't do that. I think just the facts and not the advocacy in here. Need a comparison. I also think that the 72K and the 100K, I think that has been inflated, and I think it's misleading. And I think it has possibly it's an attempt to give some wiggle room for somebody to lower something and make themselves look good. I don't think that's good to do. Operates, I'd like you to disclose in the report the 3 bullet items I've got. We operate under a council manager. We have professional staff. The roles are part-time, and the compensation package includes very generous benefits packages, such, et cetera, et cetera. If you go to page 3 that I've got here, there's 2 items. Page 3 of my handout, page 9 of your report. Please add discussion comparing with other municipals' salary, compensation, and benefit. Page 10. The example of the $400,000, the statement afterwards is a bit misleading. It is also unnecessary. I would like you to consider striking "and not unusual number in Sunnyvale." That simply is advocacy, and that is not accurate, in fact, to try to compare that. You're just having numbers and median a calculation. Modify the last sentence, tech manager. I'd like you to add 40-hour full-time and strike tech manager. I don't think you can define that. We've already defined that there is no qualification, zero, other than being elected in here. I would not say that I could hire every one of the council members as a tech manager on the teams that I had. Okay, they're not qualified. Some are, but some are not. The next page, part-time roles, page 11. There's some more things about the part-time role and benefit. Last two bullets. I implore you, please reconsider 5,000 and 7,500. I think that's a more reasonable starting points for your surveys. Page 12, compensation. We already talked about it. Blue line or red line, something that shows there. And we got some artificial things. Appointment duration. Okay, this, I think I've pretty much covered everything. If you find anything else on there, please put that into the compensation topic. Thank you.
Chair, that was the final in-person public speaker.
Okay, last call for any other in-person speakers. Then we'll move on to remote speakers. Remote speakers are warned to limit their comments to the agenda item being considered. Speakers who are ruled out of order will not be given another chance to speak on this item. This is for agenda item 25-0559 and specifically Charter Section 605. City Clerk, do we have any remote participants wishing to speak on this item?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Then I will suspend the public hearing and I will bring it back to the committee for additional discussion leading up to a motion on this item. And I wanted to jump in with my 2 cents because I think there's a lot of interest in getting the language right on the charter. What I'm thinking about is I don't want to go too far tonight in trying to wordsmith this section because I think the more that we change this, the more likely we are to make a mistake on it. I think the intent is very clear. I think we're all in agreement on the intent is how do we express that. That being said, this is a recommendation to council and it will be up to city council to decide what they actually want to put onto the ballot. And so with that second consideration, I'm thinking there will be an opportunity to come back for council to revisit this or staff to propose additional changes. It's really this is the committee's recommendation tonight. So leaning one way, I'm more willing to go whatever direction the majority of the committee feels is the best, the clearest way. And I can see the arguments both ways on this. So let's go to committee members. Let's start with member Wee, followed by member Vickery.
I concur with Chair Larson to keep it simple and fairly straightforward. And I'm close to being able to, I think, articulate a motion that's very simple with just a very slight change to our wording, taking member Vickery's recommendation. So where I'm trending right now, without making a motion yet, but where I'm trending is in the 605 compensation new language. For simplicity, I just struck I left the commencing with a small c, and I struck January 1, 2012 through the capital commencing in the following sentence. I struck that, and then that all fits together. It's just commencing January 1st, 2027, which basically accomplishes the date change in that section. And then now that we've mentioned the CPI dates, I just adjusted those accordingly to match the 2027. So we've mentioned 2028 for that 1 year and then 2027. And that base year is actually the base year for October. It's not it's not for the end of December. It's as of October. I don't think there's an issue there with the wording here. And then one other slight change that I was hearing, and now that I'm rereading this, I'm feeling less comfortable about, is that the paragraph says perhaps in 1992 the scope of Sunnyvale's government was similar to general city. That feels I'm not sure we really need that whole paragraph really. we are what we are. And I'd be, willing maybe to trim what I'm striking there, but I'm currently trending toward just striking that whole paragraph. This is in the background section regarding comparing us to General Law City and comparing us to Cupertino. Page 9, yes, thanks. On the background B. But I'm okay leaving it. I'm okay striking it. I'm stronger on the wording for a proposed amendment, in 605, the proposed language for the charter. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Vickery, followed by Member Davis.
I am much more interested in the language that we're proposing for the charter than I am in the narrative. And I also want to defer to the subcommittee on changes to the narrative. Some of the things that were recommended in the public hearing may very well be worth considering, but that's not my concern right now. So I would like to make a motion to approve the language on page 12, which reads the proposed revisions to Charter Section 605 to implement this recommendation are as follows. And I'll state the motion and then I'll speak to it if there's a second. I would propose striking in the current language of the charter 2012 and inserting 2027 underlined, striking the 2088-64 and inserting 6,000 underlined, striking 2784-86 and inserting 9,000 underlined. The next sentence would not appear at all. And then in the second paragraph, striking 2013, inserting underscored 2028, striking CPIU and inserting underscored CPI-U, and striking 2012 and inserting underscored 2027. And if I get a second, I'll speak to this.
Member Davis, would you like to second? Or do you?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. And to your motion.
So I realize that absent a bill drafting manual for city charters in California or for the Sunnyvale City Charter, there may be different ways of drafting this. I'm simply using a drafting protocol that I'm familiar with from state legislative drafting. And I think it will be clear if we adopt this that if there is a drafting protocol that is preferred, then the staff and the city council will use that. But I think this will make clear as we need to make it what our intention is. And so we can approve that and then leave to staff and others and the council the actual draft that goes to the citizens.
And a clarifying question on the motion. Is this motion only concerning the language, or does it include approving the remainder of this section of the report and also the summary in section 2?
I don't intend to address anything other than the sentence that introduces the box and the box, because that's really all I, at this moment, care about.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure we were clear what we're talking about here. Okay. And let's go to Member Davis to your second.
Member Vickery has great expertise on legal language, and I really value it. So I'm persuaded by the idea that the charter should say the law as it is, not as it was. So it seems pretty straightforward to support this particular motion for me. Thank you.
And just for the group, a draft is up on the screen.
If I may, I did not move to strike the last sentence of paragraph too, because I don't really understand what that sentence does anyway. So I don't want to speak to that.
But I think you did say change the 2012 to update that.
2027. Yes.
2027.
So if I could just interject, I believe the intent of that sentence is just to, so there's no confusion about when we're looking at the year the salary changes start, which October you're thinking about. So this just makes it very clear.
And this follows the existing template. It updates the numbers. Okay, let's go to member Wee, followed by member Rubino.
So I am supporting this because it actually matches exactly the language, except I left out the CP-U, that little typo correction. But that it accomplishes exactly what I was recommending as well. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Member Rubino.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you have to strike the last sentence, the CPU base index, because it's not the calendar year. The calendar year is always December. So, and we're doing it based on October data, not, unless you say calendar year starting October. Because we are using October as the basis of the increases.
But it also says it's 12 rolling months beginning from October, so.
Correct, so, yeah, but calendar year is very specific that it's usually January to December. And we're using October. And you could have massive inflation between October and November, which will make the calendar year different, or could be less. And that's why I think you have to be more specific and say it's based on the October data.
So I think that the sentence before that says that it is October. I don't think it would be harmful to say the base index month and year shall be October 2027.
Perfect.
Because I think just the sentence before that explains that it is always October. This sentence just adds lots of clarity about when you're making your first adjustment, which October are you using? Are you using an October? I mean, we all would not assume that you're using October 2028.
No,
But are
you're-
you, so I think that if you're hung up on making it more specific, the word October could get added to that last sentence to say, because then you're saying every October will be, it's adjusted. The first time we're doing it is this specific October.
Right, but if you put in the calendar year, it's almost negating what you've said before that, because you're saying calendar. So if you just use the same thing, calendar year based on October or whatever, your language is better than mine. But I think you have to be specific. We are dealing here with the charter.
Thank you. Let's go to member Vickery.
So if I may, I think the suggestion, which makes sense to me, even though I don't have any clue what we're talking about here, is that the CPU base index year, the CPIU base index month and year shall be October, 2027, which would necessitate the insertion of underscored month and before year. And the overstriking of calendar. No, it'd be, the month end would go in front of the year that's right after the word index. Shall be an overstrike calendar and insert October before October, before 2027. Yes, that good catch there. The year would be overstruck and then October, 2027 be inserted.
Yeah, member Davis.
Just a point of order, does this need to be accounted for as a friendly amendment?
That,
Yes.
my intention would be that would be a friendly amendment, which I would accept if the second.
accept it.
And I think I would put a comma after October unless people feel strongly otherwise. I see the flashing, but not the there we go. It occurred. Here.
I'm resisting the urge to debate comments,
Yes.
commas, but yes. Okay, let's go to Vice Chair Wickham.
I don't know how many friendly amendments we can have, but could it just be simplified as the CPI-U base index year shall be 2027? So you take out calendar and just call it 2027. What if there's a government shutdown and you don't get the data in October?
I was only going, if I may, I was only going on the basis of people who obviously knew more about this than I did. And those people seemed to think that it was important to specify month and year. So, you know, I do not feel strongly about anything other than getting this right and approving it.
And I'm going to jump in here. I'm reluctant to go too far down the rabbit hole of tweaking the exact language here. We have a template that has worked to date, even if we think we can improve it. I'm primarily interested in just updating the years and the dollar amounts here. What we have so far, I think, is a good clarification, but beyond that, it's starting to feel more substantive, and I'd rather not go too far down that path. Let's go to Member Wee, followed by Member Pine.
Yeah, I really think we got too hung up in this calendar thing because it's just establishing the initial year and a calendar year versus a fiscal year. That's the distinguishing because the fiscal years can offset things differently than a calendar year offsets it. So you want the October in that calendar year. And I thought it read pretty clearly, but if staff's happy with this, I'm happy with it. But if it's happy, I'm happy just switching the date from 2012 to 2027. But you've accepted the friendly amendment, so I'm fine with it if this is the way we want to go. Thank you.
Member Pine.
Yeah, similarly, I'm not going to fight about the more detailed change. If staff's happy with it, I'm fine with it. But I would also just note that this is likely to be a controversial ballot measure, and if we're recommending a controversial ballot measure, I would encourage there to be as minimal changes as possible to not give people reasons to be, because to not give people a, hey, what is this change? I'm not sure what this change is. I'm going to vote no because unknown changes are scary.
Thank you. Any other advocacy on the motion or friendly amendments? Member Vickery.
Well, it seemed what I was going to suggest at one point when we were tied up on that last sentence was that it could read the CP-U base index year is, but we'll stick with shall be. The CPU base index year shall be 2027. And then we would not appear to be making a greater change than just designating the year. But again, I want to be sure that that is the accurate way of referring to the CPI-U base index. And again, I defer to others. So I'm willing to accept the friendliest amendment that can be offered on this particular sentence.
Member Rubino. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Newswanger.
I tend to agree with Member Wickham and Vickery. To make it simple, I would probably just strike the word calendar and leave the rest of the sentence the same, except a change to the 2027. Did that make sense? Yeah.
Is that a friendly amendment or is that just a?
That's a friendly amendment.
And I would accept that if the seconder does.
Oh, hold on. There we go. Nope. Sorry, I've got this. There we go.
I accept the friendly amendment. That's actually what I was thinking from the beginning, except I think our ratio of words about words has gotten kind of high.
And now Member Rubino.
I'm just suggesting that I don't think we should be wordsmithing this except the draft. Because I think, and staff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, should the council approve this as to go on the ballot? Don't your attorneys get involved in terms of what the language ought to be? So I think if we give them directional, that'll do it. So, but I think we should point out that there's an issue with that last sentence and they can figure it out. It's probably Melissa, but what the heck? Thanks.
Well, I also think it's clear that the intention of the committee is not to recommend any change to this section. So, you know, the advice that we would give if there's confusion about how to calculate it is to continue calculating it the same way they've done since 2013. So I think that this discussion has made very clear that there's no intent to change how they're currently calculating it.
Well, I don't think there's any Federal Reserve district that does monthly. It's only, I think, on the federal level that it's done monthly. I think the rest of the 12 districts do it on a quarterly basis. I could be wrong, but because I know we're quarterly.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this motion accurately reflects, captures the intent of the committee. The attorneys can certainly update this later before it goes to council if that's necessary. But we've really done the important thing, which is capturing our intent. So seeing no further questions, let's vote on this motion. City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
First up, Member Olafson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Wee?
Yes.
Member Vickery?
Yes.
Member Davis?
Yes.
Chair Larson?
Yes. Yes.
Member Pine? Member Pine?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Newswinger?
Yes, again.
Member Rubino, I don't see your microphone there we go. Member Rubino?
Yes.
And Member Philly?
Yes.
The motion carries 10-0.
I need to vote.
We had one more.
My apologies.
Vice Chair Wickham.
Vice Chair Wickham, sorry.
Yes.
Great, now it truly passes 10-0. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are still on this section. We've just approved the language that's proposed for the ballot. So we still need a motion on any changes and whether to approve this section and also the summary in section 2. So we'll go to Member Wee, followed by Member Davis.
I'm going to move to approve this section as is with the change to the charter language we've already moved to approve, yes.
And
No
does
other
that-
changes.
And does that also include the summary in
It'll
section
include
2?
summary.
Okay. And Member Davis.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion from the committee advocacy? To your motion, Member Wee, there we go.
Yeah, while I considered that taking that paragraph, it gives a general sense to council what we're generally thinking. And we don't have to be perfect in language. Those advisory to them and they'll figure it out on their own. So it's good enough as it is now. So let's let it roll. And yeah, thank you.
And Member Davis, to your second.
Yes, I agree with that sentiment. I'd also point out that the suggested changes that have come from a member of the public would really weaken what we were saying. These are all things that would basically say we're arguing against what we're arguing for. And they've also been taken up at earlier meetings already. So I appreciate the advocacy, but it's already been considered. So I support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, last call for comments and advocacy on this. Seeing none, City Clerk, please conduct a roll call vote.
First up, Member Davis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Newswanger,
Yes.
Member Olafson,
Yes.
Member Pine, Member Pine,
Yes.
Member Wee,
Yes.
Member Vickery,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wickham,
Yes.
Member Rubino,
Yep.
Member Philly.
Yes.
The motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, everyone. So now we're done with this section. We move on to Charter Section 606, City Council vacancies. This is pages 13 through 21 in the report, and of course, the brief summary in Section 2. So we will start with questions from my colleagues. We'll start with Member Pine, followed by Member Newswanger.
Sorry, this was actually a quick question, parliamentary question. I assume that the CRC by a vote to be filled in after discussion at CRC meeting is just going to automatically turn into the vote that we just took, and we don't have to incorporate language to that effect in the motion.
That's right.
Thank you.
Member Newswanger.
My first comment is just a typographical error on page 15 on the line immediately below the table. It refers to Exhibit 2, but I think that should be Attachment 7. And then I was just going to respond to Zach about the what he said about that it might be okay to prohibit appointees from running in the next election. I don't know, you might be right about that. I'm not a lawyer, but that may be correct. I still disagree. I think it would be awkward, and we should not prohibit appointees from running for a next election. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Member Vickery.
I think this is on behalf of the subcommittee because we had an email exchange this afternoon about one point, but the first two items are not necessarily on behalf of the subcommittee, but I think the subcommittee would agree that on page 13, issue 1 needs a question mark after it, which the other issues have. And then on page 19, the second sentence under B, background, needs a period at the end of it. And then the matter that we spent some time on in email on today involved the third paragraph on page 17. And as a couple of us reread this, we realized that we had made a transition from talking about elections following appointments to talking about a decision by the council to fill a vacancy with an election not involving an appointment, and that we did not make that transition quite as clear as we could, which might have left the impression that we're suggesting no change when we actually are suggesting a change for appointive positions. So here is how we would propose to fix that. And I will read this, and then I can provide it to the staff, or I can handle it however we want to handle it. The first sentence would read, not as currently written, but would read, the CRC concluded that the city council should not be restricted to the use of only a November election when it decides to fill a vacancy by election rather than appointment. That is, in fact, what the subcommittee recommended and what the CRC agreed with when we discussed this. And then the second sentence, and this may make particularly the point of the difference here. The second sentence would be revised to read, as an example, the second sentence would read, city council flexibility, and then you would insert, when choosing to fill a vacancy by election was a key factor in the deliberations of the 2018 CRC. So we're making it clear that this paragraph deals with decisions by the city council to fill a vacancy with an election, not an appointment. And that in those circumstances, we are not recommending a change because a change there would take away the city council's flexibility to decide what kind of election to use in that situation. So I can provide that language to staff. I just need to be sure for purposes of the subcommittee that you understand what we're saying there.
Member Newswanger.
Yeah, I agree. This is the problem with writing by committee and with staff and everybody contributing. We sort of lost, I think we had a subject header there at one point. But at any rate, I agree with what
You're the
Member
doctor.
Victor, I know, I always do that, said. And I lost track of the other thing I was going to say. So I'm done.
We can always circle back later. Member Olafson.
Thank you. Yes, that is the clarifying language that we discovered on rereading what we wrote and then trying to poke holes in what we wrote. So I agree with the proposed language that Member Vickery just read. Thank you.
Okay, we'll pause for just a little bit. I think staff is getting clarifications on the language. Good. Okay, let's go to Vice Chair Wickham.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Makes a lot more sense to me. I did have a question of if council decides that a vacancy should be filled by an election and it's not the November general election, what other choice? Is that a special election then? So there could be, the council could, with their flexibility, they could still decide we want to have a special election at no matter the cost. Yeah.
Member Vickery.
That's correct. And that's what that's what the entire committee agreed with when we presented that previously, which is if city council fills a vacancy with an appointment, then we're going to limit the election following the appointment to the November election. We're not going to put any other restrictions on city council's decision about filling with an election.
Member Newswanger.
Sorry, I was going to say the same thing that Member Vickery said.
All right, anything else from the committee? Questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the public hearing. I will reopen the public hearing. We are now on Charter Section 606, City Council vacancies. Please submit a speaker card to the city clerk or raise your digital hand now, or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. City Clerk will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City Clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, first up is Zachary K, followed by Steve S.
Two things. On page 17, there's a sentence that says, in 1975, the charter was amended in part specifically to limit the number of appointees to the city council. Limit, it's sort of vague. You might want to consider something more like, I think this is accurate. In 1975, the charter was amended in part specifically to ban non-mandated appointments to the city council. If you're limiting the number, what does that mean? Is it limit to 1, 5, 0, 2? No. Anyway, the other one, page 19, there's a sentence, the cost information that is available is not conclusive because Sunnyvale has not conducted a special election for a single council seat. I presume that means you don't have the data or whatever, but it's kind of like if you were to come out at this not familiar with what's going on, it's something you go like, oh, wait a second, Larry Klein was elected in a special election. So yeah, I don't have a suggestion for you on that, but it just feels like a stumbling sentence to me.
Next up is Steve S.
If I could have my presentation, it would be helpful. Okay. You could refer to page 2 of the handout. On page 8, please disclose that only November, you could have up to 26 months or even a little higher appointment. Disclose also that allowing 2 appointees could become 3 or more if we're called to military duty or other federally protected leave that obligates having to do a temporary placement. I think that's very important, needs to be in there. If we go to page 5, on page 15 of your report, the appointment duration column, please spell out the duration ranges. I did bring this up before. 5 date, longer, longer, shortest, short. I think we need to have specifics in that table. And the first paragraph, last sentence could be much higher. I've looked at the data. Some people have tried to use a 10x based on an aberration in 2016, and even that doesn't come out correctly. I think that the changes that I've shown here can be higher, strike the much, ranging from about the same cost, and that is shown there, to 2 to 5 times, depending on the election, whether it's standalone or whether it's consolidated with state or county election or other ballot questions, even on our own ballot. So that 10 times is not accurate. So please do consider these. The next page, on page 16, bullet point number 2, the specified 8 months longer, 5 months longer, same comment as before. Second paragraph, consider requiring different types of election years. You do note in there that that would be the least change in policy compared to the existing charter. I know it's going to be a little tricky to put the words, but I think that's the right path to go. We should have the minimum. I have a vested interest, as you do, in having anything we propose pass. Okay? And I see a lot of risk here. 62.22%. Let's all remember that number. Paragraph 3 and 4, how should vacancies be filled? Disclose that the survey did not disclose the current process. Last sentence was misleading a little bit. I have there about 2 to 5 times depending on the election. If you go to the next page, your report, page 19, top thing there, majority of respondents, please disclose that there was a deficiency in the survey and that you risk losing some trust. And I think that's it. Right on cue.
Chair, that was the last in-person speaker for this portion of this agenda item.
Okay, one final call for in-person speakers. We'll go to remote speakers now. Let's see. Okay, remote speakers are warned to limit their comments to the agenda item being considered. Speakers who are ruled out of order will not be given another chance to speak on this item. This is for agenda item 25-0559, the section on Charter Section 606. City Clerk, do we have any remote participants wishing to speak on this item?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I will suspend the public hearing and bring it back to my colleagues for follow-on discussion leading up to a motion. We'll start with Member Pine. Something's not working here. I'm not able to turn on Member Pine's microphone. Let's try again. Still not working. Perhaps one of your neighbors can share a microphone. Okay. No. Oh, yeah. Wait. Still having trouble. Maybe the problem is on my end. Okay, I am clicking the button. Yeah, I'm not able to. Oh, all the way over here. Let's try that one. No. Do this. And yeah, it's not. For everyone listening in, we are experiencing technical difficulties and we will sort this out as soon as we can.
Okay, Member Pine, can you try activating your microphone?
Yes.
So the microphones should all be working, although you need to, the rate requesting to speak functionality is lost. So please respect when the chair calls on you.
Member Pine.
Yep, thank you. Regard to a member of the public's point regarding the language on the third line, so the very last word of the first paragraph on page 19. I think possibly it would be clearer if we changed the word seat to the word district. Say that Sunnyvale has not conducted a special election for a single council district, which corrects the issue of we have conducted a special election for a single seat that was a numbered post seat that we don't have anymore, but we have not conducted a special election for a single district because we obviously have not. I think that the member of the public's point out that language being kind of vague is well taken. I think that would be a good way to fix it.
Thank you. If you'd like to speak, please kind of wave at me. It looks like Member Newswanger. Yeah, you're up next.
Yeah, I agree with Member Pine. That is a better way to say it. I wanted to respond to some of the items in the handout that we received from Mr. Scandalis. On page 15, it's going to be hard for me to corroborate all these things, but we'll see if I can get there. The appointment duration column, you wanted more specifics, and this was in someplace else as well. The 5 and 8 months was because of the time between the primary and general election. It wasn't just, a range, it was either 5 or 8, because that's how long it is between a March primary and a November election, or a June primary and a November election. The second bullet in that number, the much higher, I mean, we're quibbling about the definition of much. I think 2 to 5 times is much higher. But I also think that our calculation, the ranges are even more than that, because of special circumstances occasionally. Okay, that's also on the next slide, slide item number 9, page 16. That's the same thing again. Yeah, we talked about this second bullet point, the second paragraph, reconsidering. You said, the least change in policy compared to the least change in the charter. It's a style preference, really. We decided that changing the wording in the policy in the charter was desirable not to change a lot of words in the charter if we could help it. I feel like the third and fourth paragraphs, how should vacancies be filled? That one, I think we kind of did disclose that in the body of the report. I don't think further verbiage on that is necessary. We're kind of beating a dead horse. The third, fourth bullet point there. Yeah, it's the same comments that I made already.
Do you have additional comments?
Yeah, I'm reading
Okay.
as I go here.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm back now. I'm on his slide number 7, item 10, page 19. See, I don't think that's disingenuous. We did mention that the survey was not designed to answer this question, which is what you're basically saying. And so we recognize that the data from that is insufficient to make a judgment. But I feel like we mentioned that in the report adequately. Okay, those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to look around if anyone else has a comment. Vice Chair Wickham.
Yes, I'm looking at page 21. So the language to change the charter, the markup, D, I guess it's 6, no, what is it? D on page 21. So it references the appointee shall hold office until the next general municipal election or regularly scheduled statewide general election. Is there ever a difference between those two things? Because it does then go on to say whichever occurs sooner.
So I'm looking
Yeah.
to staff for their expertise on could a
Sorry, could you restate the question? I'm working on getting our 2,453 page council packet published, which is a very large, abnormally large, but that's what I've been working on. Sorry. So if you restate the question.
Yes. Okay, on page, what did I say? 21D, it says, this is the markup in the charter recommendation, the appointee shall hold office until the next general municipal election or regularly scheduled statewide general election, whichever occurs sooner. So my question is, are those ever two different things?
Yes. The state can have different general elections. There are several state called elections every year. Well, there's election dates that are in the elections code. There are times where nothing is scheduled on those dates, but typically there could be a statewide general election on a date other than a Sunnyvale municipal election, particularly in odd numbered years. There may be a November state general election for some offices that would not have a Sunnyvale general municipal election.
Thank you.
And next is Member Vickery.
I actually would like to ask the clerk if he thinks that we have used the right language here, because we did not have the benefit of your counsel as we drafted this language. And so I think you know what we're trying to do. Is that the right language to use?
So could you give me one sentence of what you're trying to do to make sure that I'm understanding? Because you did have, I will note, you had Melissa's counsel, which when I need counsel on elections, Melissa is typically who I turn to.
Oh, okay. I'll take counsel from any source, but I think we were trying to move to the next general municipal election or a November election. That was our intent, but we thought this was the appropriate language to use.
I think if you truly wanted to stick with a November election, you would want to have the word November in there.
Yeah.
Member Pine.
Yeah, it was my understanding that the state regularly schedules 2 elections per cycle. There is the statewide primary election, and there's the statewide general election, and then everything else is some variety of special election.
I think if you're intending to limit it to the November elections, we should probably clarify it. Because like, as David said, there's a long list of possible election dates in the elections code that the state may use, sometimes uses. But if it's really the intent to limit it to the November election, I would suggest clarifying that.
I was just like looking at this year. It was the election this year. Was declared as and you could, on the Secretary of State's website, it's described as the statewide special election, and the intent was to have that as.
So I can look into the elections code. This was a special, so regarding the election for the statewide measure, that was a special election for a measure. So an election for a measure is never a general election, because you don't have a measure that happens every 4 years. So general elections, the actual, like the definition of a general election would be for something that has someone that has an office that has a specific term and has a set cycle. And that's where, see, when you have me here, then you say the word special election really can happen in November. If it's for an individual for an office that has a cycle and it's off cycle, then it's special. So that's why a measure always is on a special election. There could be, like for Sunnyvale, when we had in our last election in November, we had several general elections for council seats, and then we had 2 special elections for measures that are all on the same ballot, but technically they are separate elections that happen to occur on the same day.
Right.
Which like generally doesn't matter for voters, But for the charter language, it does matter, right? Like what you're trying to say. For a voter, right, you get a ballot and there are 120 things that could be on your ballot depending on where you live. And you just think of it as one election, but those are all truly 120 separate elections that are consolidated into one ballot.
Right. The intent was that to limit it to the even year November elections, which are the ones that the state, in contrast with either primary elections or all of the fun flavors of statewide special elections.
So yeah, so I would think that if you were truly trying to say, I mean, I guess we could look at the charter language about when the regular general elections are that align with those even year November elections, and we might want to replicate that language here if that's the intent. Because is the intent, let's say, for example, you had a seat that was gonna expire in 2028, but someone resigned, you would not want it to have fallen on the November 2025 election. You would have wanted it to go to the November 2026 election when Sunnyvale already has an office on the ballot. Was that the intent? Or for example, if a council member had resigned in March of 2025, when would you have wanted that office to be on the ballot? November 2025, or hold off until 2026 when Sunnyvale will already have something on the ballot, a different council seat?
2026. We want a high turnout, low cost election at a reasonable time. And so to me, that means the November election. And I was under the impression that the municipal election was always November.
So Sunnyvale municipal elections are always in November of even number years now.
Right.
They used to be in odd number years, but now they're even. So I think if that's really what you want to hit, I think the language that we have in the charter about when the general elections that are held in even numbered years, I think that language, we'd want to replicate something like that if your intent is to hit that same date.
And I think also if the goal is to make this easy to understand for voters and the public and everyone else, it's just stating a November election is probably the clearest way to do it.
Can I speak here? No.
I think we're still with Member Pine.
The next. Yeah, so the language for elections, general municipal elections is section 1400, which states, okay, well, actually, here's a question. This might be deeper, but if it's the appointee shall hold office, if it's the next general municipal election, would that be considered to be the next November, blah, blah, like the next even year November? Or do we have to be fancier than that because we're saying it's 7 different general municipal elections and it would have to be and we'd have to specify further. So we're saying it's not the one that it could.
So Sunnyvale's charter defines our general municipal election as November of even numbered years.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, could we get away with saying just saying the appointee shall hold office until the next general municipal election?
That's your intent. Yes.
The intent. So why I'm being careful is okay, if the term is up, if somebody was elected in 2024 and resigns in March, April 2025, I want to make sure the election is held on November 2026 and it's not put off all the way until November 2028.
I think and Melissa may disagree. I think that the next general Sunnyvale municipal election would be the way to go, just so there's no confusion, because there are cities that have odd year elections. So I don't know if adding the word Sunnyvale is necessary, but I think it would help clarify. And then I think, and then that makes it sound slightly more general, because you're not saying hold off until the next election for that seat. You're really saying the next time Sunnyvale has a general municipal election, which is going to be the next even numbered November, that's when it would go.
But I think if the committee's intent is to have vacancies filled only with Sunnyvale's November even numbered year elections, then we should just say that. Because adding the language that's in there now makes it sound like
Yeah.
there are options for other
Okay,
elections.
I'm,
If
I
that-
am fine with, I would like to see staff's recommended language. I'm not trying to, like, I'm not trying to be too cute. I'm just trying to make sure we hit the dates we're trying to hit.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so let's see, I know member Newswanger had wanted to speak earlier. Let me just check in with him and then go to member Wee and member Vickery.
I think we're all on the same page. I agree with Member Pine and staff. It's the November election, Sunnyvale election that we want. That was our intent. So whatever, and we struggled with this language in our subcommittee. We probably shouldn't have said anything and let you write it, but yeah, please write it so that it's correct and clear.
Member Wee.
And now that I'm understanding what staff said, I like that great simplification, the next Sunnyvale general municipal election, period. And then this exception language isn't needed. It's very easy and simple.
Member Vickery.
It's obvious to me that we should have asked a couple of questions when we didn't previously, but I think it's now clear, given what section 1400 says in defining the term general municipal election, that what we need to do here is precisely what you see on the screen, which is to simply strike the exception that exists there. So I think that's what we want indeed.
Member Olafson, followed by member Pine.
Well, thank you. And looking what is now on the screen before us, that simplifies the language a lot, and I support that. Thank you.
Member Pine.
Yeah, I think this both simplifies it, and I think it should be clear to anybody reading this what the intent of the change is. So I think it's both. I think it's both effective and clear to anybody reading. Thank you.
Member Newswanger.
I just wanted to ask if we need to add the word Sunnyvale in front of general municipal election, because we talked about using the word Sunnyvale earlier in the conversation.
We can, but we don't need to. General municipal election is capitalized and it refers to where it's
Okay.
the definition of general municipal election in the charter. So-
Okay, so long as it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very well spelled out in section 1400. So it's
Member Vickery, did you say, okay. Yeah, I like this language too. I think it captures our intent. It's simple, straightforward. We're changing as little as possible. Okay, all right, member Vickery.
It would be very nice if staff would be willing to go back and look for other places in the narrative where we said things. I'm seeing one, for example, on page 20, where we say amend D to have them serve until the next general municipal election or regularly scheduled special municipal election consolidated with the next statewide general election. If you would help us get rid of all those references that we really didn't intend, now that we understand better what we're doing.
Any other comments? I think we're ready for a motion at this point. Yeah, Member Pine.
Thank you. I'll take a stab at this. I move that the committee adopt item section 3. I'll call it section 3.2, which is the how many councilors shall be served by appointment at any one time, incorporating the revisions that have been discussed tonight by the committee. I believe we are clear on everything that's been discussed, and I don't need
Could you actually spell out the, unless staff feels like super comfortable, we've talked about a number of visions. I think it'd be good to have clarity for everyone so we know what we're voting on. And if you'd like help with that, I'm sure staff
I
would
was
help.
gonna say staff, if staff has them, it would be easier.
We,
I
we
can-
discussed the changes from committee member Vickery
Yes,
to the text. The changes that are in subsection D on the screen right now. I had a note about changing a reference to seat from the word seat to district.
yep, page 19.
And then cleanup related to references to the statewide elections, and changing that to general municipal elections only.
Yep,
And
thank you.
just for clarification, a period after,
Like,
on page 19, you got that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was from
Sorry.
Member Vickery. Yep, thank you. Okay, as well as adopting in section 2, the recommendation in paragraph 2, except modified to state, modify the current rule that council members, actually, no, this does not need to be modified. I misread the paragraph slightly. So just section 2, clause 2, as written, and attachments 7 and 8, and question to either the chair or staff, what is the best way to work through attachment 6, given that we haven't, given that attachment 6 kind of has to go through piecemeal? Do you want a motion to include attachment 6 just at the end, or?
So attachment 6 is just a summary of all of
Right.
the charter sections. And I think if you can just say make corresponding changes throughout, I'll do that anyway as I clean it up, but I'll just direct staff to make corresponding changes throughout the report to do any cleanup consistent with your motion.
Okay, and I guess the thing is that I haven't technically adopted attachment 6 at all yet, because I didn't put it in the first motion because it wasn't, we didn't have anything done with the first motion.
So maybe this helps. Attachment 6 is just a copy and paste of
Yep.
the text
Right.
that's in each section. So by adopting those sections, you're also approving all the change.
Okay.
You'll be approving.
And attachment 6 regarding, okay, and so should I just say, and attachment 6, including the changes to sections 605 and 606?
I think that's fine.
Okay, I'll throw that in. And
Sorry.
and I believe that covers everything.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarity. And I didn't see who was next, so we'll go to Member Wee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Member Pine, your motion.
Thank you. Yes, I think we've discussed this a lot, but this has been a lot of discussion for what is honestly a fairly simple change to move, to essentially move general election, to move by-elections, to use the British term, for city council seats from primary elections to general elections. I think it makes things simpler from members of the public. I think means we get significantly higher turnout. So, although I know I have been rethinking my turnout assumptions a bit in light of some of the very large turnout we've seen in the recent statewide special, but I assume the general law of politics is still you get significantly higher turnout in November. It will almost certainly save the city significant amount of money. I would also note that we'd have received a fairly substantial commentary from one member of the public regarding number of appointments, and I will note that in my view, it would be completely inappropriate to note that in the recommendation paragraph, because we are not proposing any changes. We are not proposing changes to that. So we shouldn't be telling council we're proposing changes to something we're not changing. The goal is not to revisit the previous, is to completely redo what the previous charter committee did. We're trying to keep things mostly the same. We're trying to make a very small, was ultimately a relatively minor change here. Thank you. Please vote yes.
Member Wee, to your second.
This language is now much simpler and clearer, and I like it. Thank you.
Hear, hear. I agree. Any other comments from committee members? Seeing none, City Clerk, please conduct a vote.
First up, Member Pine.
Yes.
Member Olafson. Member Davis.
Yes.
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 Member Newsweiner.
Yes.
Chair Larson.
Yes.
Member Vickery.
Yes.
Member Wee.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wickham.
Yes.
Member Rubino.
Yes.
Member Philly.
Yes.
The motion carries 10-0. And then for your next deliberations, you will be back to having the delegate functionality on your microphones. So that's where you will request to speak and the chair will recognize you using your microphone.
Great. Thank you for sorting that out. Okay, so now we are on to the section on Article 8, City Manager Authority to Settle Claims. So we'll start with a subcommittee report. I'll see if my fellow subcommittee members want to give the report, or I can do it. I'm happy to. Okay, comes to me. The one significant bit of additional information that we added into the report was about what other cities are doing, and also the how CPI has changed since the $50,000 limit was established. And a number of other cities have a authority limit of around $100,000. If we apply CPI to the $50,000 limit from when it was established, that gives us, I don't have the number in front of me, but it's in the range of $140,000, $150,000. And then we also noted that CPI is just general expenses, and settlements include oftentimes medical expenses and or legal expenses, which have probably gone up more than CPI. So that gives us a couple of data points. The city manager's authority is $250,000. We don't need to match that, but a number like within that range certainly seems reasonable. So the subcommittee was comfortable with a range in the $100,000 to $150,000 range. And the full committee could either recommend a range to council or could settle on a specific number. In any case, this is not language that's going into the charter. This would be for a potential companion ordinance that would take effect if and when the charter amendment passes. And so that would, of course, go through all the usual public hearing and additional opportunities to debate. This is just suggesting a starting point for council. So that's the subcommittee report. And we will go to Member Vickery, followed by Member Rubino. Let me try again. There.
I reported to the committee previously that as a citizen, I had approached Mayor Klein about, and Assembly Member Aaron's, about my opinion that this needed a statewide fix, not just a Sunnyvale fix. And I saw Mayor Klein at a function yesterday, a public function, and he informed me that he has spoken with Assemblymember Aaron's about this, and that Assemblymember Aaron's will have his staff research this issue and consider introducing legislation in January on this.
Thank you for that update. Next is Member Rubino.
Yeah, I just have a point of order. Did we forget the city council meeting schedules?
No, we didn't. Oh, we took that up as part of the first
Okay, thank
item.
you.
Member Wee.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of this recommendation, and I just found I think it's a typo on page 26 under E recommendation, the first paragraph. It's talking about, I think it should say authorize city council to approve the city manager settlement authority limit, not refer to the public works procurement process.
Sorry, that's a copy paste.
Yeah, copy paste error. Okay. I was reading it and said, oh, I just missed, I'd go back and forth and say, where am I in the document? And that's my only comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Olafson.
Thank you. I appreciate the work going into this. I would prefer that we recommend a specific number to the council rather than kicking the football towards them and see how far they return it. I would suggest that we choose $150,000 based on what the $50,000 would equal, what the 1989 $50,000 would be today, which
Oh, your microphone popped off. There we go.
When you cut me off, let me know ahead of time.
I don't know how I did it.
The committee had established that a 1989 $50,000 is about $140,000 today. And that seems entirely reasonable to me. So I would recommend we change the range from 100 to 150,000 to a new limit of 150,000 would be appropriate. Just cross out the range between and make that happen. That way we're standing up to the council and saying, you ask us what we should do, here's what we think is right. And not leave any equivocation in our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Pine.
Yeah, just there's a couple other places where it refers to 1309 in this area, and it's on page 26, the header, it says 1314 claims against city, when it should be 1309 contracts on public works. And also in F on page 27, which is the CRC vote and conclusion, it says a ballot measure to amend section 1314. It should be a 1309. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the committee before we go to the public? Seeing none. Vice Chair Wickham.
I appreciate Committee Member Olafson's suggestion. But I actually do think we should provide a range just because that range was based on what other cities have done, as well as the Consumer Price Index change since 1989. So, you know, there are two, you could say, well, other cities have set this limit near $100,000, so let's choose 100. But I think there is reason to use a range because there is, you know, two different considerations.
Thank you. Member Pine.
Yes, sorry, I just want to say I got that completely backwards because I got confused that you were saying about the headers. It's just the proposed revisions to it's just, we're just changing 1314 in the second paragraph of E, is that correct?
And I made a note to myself. I will go back and double check all
Yes, sorry,
all
I
the
got-
cross references.
I got
So,
confused
yeah, it's okay.
by commentary, so this is also honestly, I'm all, because we're doing 1314 and then 1309, so we're moving back in the, whatever, it's mostly good, thank you.
Member Vickery.
I just wanted to make sure to note that when we get to the actual language, I am going to have some wordsmithing suggestions, but they're non-substantive, and so I don't think we need to talk about them before the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from committee members? Seeing nothing, I will go ahead and reopen the public hearing now on the Article 8 of the city charter. Please submit a speaker card to the city clerk or raise your digital hand now or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. The city clerk will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City Clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, first up, Zachary K, followed by Steve S. First up, Steve S.
Presentation up, please. Okay, if you would turn to page 2 in your handout and page 8 of your report. Third bullet here, city manager authority, the summary I think looks good overall. There is a concern I have. So the summary looks pretty good. The concern I have, if you will go to page 7 of your handout. On page 11, or the item 11, page 23. I personally agree that in an ordinance is probably adequate to do, but I'm concerned that it's not your feedback from comments and individual button checking on the survey. This is going to be possibly seen as not as transparent and not as regulated as we have right now going to the council. So even though I do like the wording that was put in your report having to do with Pasadena, I think that was the one that was given something passed by 85% or so. I don't think your survey said people are going to understand it well enough for that. So you got to ask, is it worth risking $200,000? And if you put this issue with 1 or 2 of the out of the 4, if you combine them, you're going to risk this one because the other one you combine it with, 2 of them are controversial. You don't think they are. They are already. Okay. So I don't know which way to go on this. You're talking about an ordinance. I think if you want it to pass, do it. And I personally think that coming back 5 years from now and changing it to 150 or whatever, I think that's a really small deal to do. You roll it in on a general election, you make it really low cost to do, and you wouldn't have a lot of people fighting it. So just consider that. Also, the last thing on this page, page 23 to 32, I very easily understand what this settlement authority is. I think 23 through 32 being very complete, but not easy to follow and succinct for lay people maybe means that those things don't explain it enough. So just think about that. And that's all I've got for that. I'll see you later, 10 minutes or so.
Chair, that is the final in-person public speaker for this agenda item.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room? Nope. Okay. So now we move on to remote speakers. Remote speakers are warned to limit their comments to the agenda item being considered. Speakers who are ruled out of order will not be given another chance to speak on this item. This is for agenda item 25-0559, specifically Article 8 of the Sunnyvale City Charter. City Clerk, do we have any remote participants wishing to speak on this item?
No, Chair.
Thank you. So I will suspend the public hearing and now bring it back to my colleagues for additional discussion or advocacy leading up to a motion. We'll start with Member Pine, followed by Member Vickery.
Yeah, thank you. Just for I kind of understood structurally that we are recommending essentially 4 different ballot measures / amendments, and obviously City Council could choose to combine them in some fashion, but like structurally, we recommend like the recommendation sections at the end of each one are the CRC by vote recommends a ballot measure to do X, and I would personally interpret that as a recommendation for a ballot measure to do X, not a ballot measure to do X that does Y, which is discussed elsewhere. It is my understanding of how this report is phrased that is the recommendation. Obviously, City Council doesn't have to do that. City Council can do whatever they want, but it's I know that I personally would not advocate particularly combining anything with the first 2 items 1 and 2, which, as the member of the public noticed, are likely to be significantly more controversial than the third or fourth items. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Vickery.
As has been obvious, I'm concerned about the language that would wind up in the charter. So I have some comments about the box on page 26. And this, of course, is not language that's currently in the charter. So it's not like we're putting something before the citizenry where they'll have to try to figure out what we're changing, because this isn't there currently. So my proposed changes would be that on the second line, we not say or employees, because the standard drafting rule is that the singular includes plural, so that if the city council wished to require 2 employees or 3 employees to be involved, just saying an employee permits that. So we would not say or employees. And then in the next line, I'm really trying to get rid of the word thereof, which I think is not a word that most people use, and they usually, if they do use it, it's in a lawyer joke. So I would like to propose that line insert the word city in front of any officer, so it's any city officer, employee, board, and I apologize, there needs to be a comma after board in the standard style of drafting statutes and legal documents. And then we can take care of the thereof by saying any city officer, employee, board, or department acting in an official capacity. And we don't have to have a pronoun because we hate pronouns. And then in the next line, no claim or action against the city may be settled, because the preferred way of prohibiting something is to say may not, and this is a form of may not. We don't say shall not, we say may not. So those are my proposed changes to that language.
Okay, Vice Chair Wickham.
I like it. Can we, could we see it on the screen as well? Thank you.
So Member Vickery, maybe you could walk us through those suggestions again?
They're up there on the screen.
Are they already there? Ah, I was expecting to see like a change from what it was before. They're all there.
They're there.
Okay. Nice.
I did this for 35 years.
Do we have any other discussion, suggestions from the committee members? And if not, we are ready for a motion. Member Rubino.
I've lost my train of thought. I just wanna, let's see, I lost my train of thought. I can't stand that.
We can always.
I
come back.
I think one of the things that's really important is how the measures are communicated to the public. Just for your own information, the Pasadena initiatives they did not come from the city. They came from the citizens themselves. And the city did not essentially have a charter commission to do it. They had these people that did it, and it was like the whole city. And Pasadena is a very different city than Sunnyvale. And that's why it got all the measures that they had. There were 4 measures on the ballot, and they all got an enormous amount of support because it was the people of the city of Pasadena that wanted the changes to the charter. This is a very different city. And that means that the communication of these 4 or 3 or whatever the heck we want to do are extraordinarily important because of what happened last year and so much negativity about the measures that were put on the ballot. And I just really, it's important for me to say this, is that how we position these without advocacy is really important, or people will not understand what they're voting for. Because again, it's not coming from the people, it's coming top down rather than bottom up. And thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think that comment would be worth repeating to council as they decide how to approach these measures and to understand that context. Yeah. Thank you. All right, we're still ready for a motion. Anyone want to take a stab at it? Member Wee.
Well, I move that we accept this section with the noted changes that we've documented by staff. And I can't actually articulate each of them other than the one that's currently viewed here. But I agreed with every change that I've seen go up by staff. Thank you.
Yeah, Member Pine.
Yeah, on a point of order, I believe a motion for this section requires making a decision on on how we're recommending the authority limits. So we can't just move to adopt for without.
Okay, and
taking
I'll
some kind of
specify.
position on that.
I'll go for a range of 100 to 150,000 versus specifying an exact number. I know we had some debate on that, but that's my choice right now.
Okay. Do we have a second? Member Pine.
I'll second with a couple friendly amendments. Friendly amendment number 1 would be to, well, I think it's just one friendly amendment. It's to make sure the recommendation also includes the portion of section two, of section two, number 4. That's number 4, to have the recommendation in the recommendation section, including the settlement authority range including the settlement authority range recommendation and the appropriate addition to attachment 6.
Okay, member Wee, to your motion. Oh, actually, first, we had a friendly amendment. Do you accept?
I accept the
friendly
friendly amendment.
Okay.
And mainly, I really like the new wording that Member Vickery has now established for our addition to the charter. And I think this will make our city more effective and having give more authority to settle claims. That's it. Thank you.
Other comments? Member Olafson.
Okay, I'm trying to make sure I understand what we're voting on. Was your motion to keep the range at 100 to 150?
Yes, to recommend that range 100 to 150 and let council choose which end of that
Okay.
spectrum to pick.
Since there hadn't been a motion to change that, I was just wondering why you were moving to change that.
No, I thought we didn't specify it yet. And so I specified it. That was it.
Yeah, there was a.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Pine.
Yeah, just speaking very briefly to the parliamentary note, because I don't have a super strong feeling on the authority range question. There was a range recommendation on page 25 that says in the new limit in the range of 100K to 150K would be appropriate, but in our formal recommendation sections on both page 26 and page 8, there was a fill in the blank, so we needed to fill in the blank.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually going to speak in favor of a single number, 150,000, because to me, the lower end of the range, the 100,000, is very close to the current range. And it seems like if we're going to put this on the ballot, it should be a more substantial change. But I don't feel strongly enough about that to make a friendly amendment. Just sort of where I lean, but I think, either way, it's, we're putting our best thinking in front of council and they can decide. Member Wee, followed by Member Vickery.
And I'll go ahead and make that a friendly amendment. I was bouncing back and forth. So I'll go ahead and make that a friendly amendment for 150. Just set that as the recommended amount for settlement.
And to the seconder, is that acceptable? Oh, yes. I'm sorry, hold on. There we go.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
Okay. Let's see, Member Vickery.
I just want to be clear about what we're putting on the ballot. We're not putting a figure on the ballot. We're putting an authorization of an ordinance. And so I'm not clear why we're talking about what the range should be that city council would then decide. I mean, that personally, to me, that seems outside our job as the Charter Review Committee, because I don't think we're telling city council what to do by ordinance on any other issue. And I don't know that we've been asked to tell city council what to do on any ordinance that it might adopt.
I'll speak to that as a member of the subcommittee. Part of our recommendation is that council pass an ordinance in conjunction with this. And so we want to give council our best thinking on what we think an appropriate number would be. That's the tie-in. I'll admit this is on the edge of what we've been asked to do, but I think because part of our recommendation is that ordinance,
I understand that as long as we make sure we don't talk about what we're putting on the ballot for the
That's right.
citizens. We're very clear about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Member Davis, followed by member Rubino.
I'm good with all the language changes, and I'll be supporting the motion. My instincts, my management instincts are to set it to, or to have an ordinance that sets it to 150. Some of my electoral naysayer in my head is saying it's an ordinance now, set it lower. So you're more likely to pass. And then if it becomes unwieldy, it's an ordinance, you can change it more easily. But I don't feel strongly enough to vote against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, member Rubino.
I just wanted to tag on to Gustav. We talked a lot about having an ordinance in like back pocket so that the public knows what it is that they're voting on. So the public knows that, yeah, we're changing it to be an ordinance and the ordinance is already there. That way it's more transparent to the citizens of Sunnyvale that vote. Thanks.
Member Vickery.
It seems to me that there might be a reason to recommend an ordinance with a 100,000 limit, even though I personally would favor 150 because the 100,000 would allow the city council to say we can assess for 2 years, whatever period of time, how many claims have now been handled expeditiously, how many additional ones we could have handled expeditiously, and then make the case for raising the limit. And it's, to me, it's not because we're trying to mislead the public by saying one thing now and with a plan to raise it later, but we're setting it at a limit that we know would be helpful right now. And we're being very transparent that we'll assess that and we might raise it by a later ordinance. But I think I personally would probably make it 250 if I could, but it does make sense to me that maybe council would want to start with a lower amount and then assess the impact of that.
Thank you. Member Olafson.
Thank you. In making a recommendation to the council, I want to vote for something that I think is the right number at the end of the day. They are the politicians who are going to figure out what the ballot measure and what the ordinance is going to finally look like. And I will leave it to the politicians to make that decision. They got themselves elected. So if we recommend what I think is the correct number, they can always lower that to something they think makes more sense to get the ballot measure and then correct it later if they find that the issue, the amount was too low. So if they decide to go lower, it would give them the opportunity to say, your fellow citizens thought it was 150. We think we need to be more conservative. So again, I'm not trying to put words in their mouth. I'm just trying to give them more flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for comments or advocacy before we vote. Member Philly.
I agree with Committee Member Olafson in that if in 1989 it was 50,000 and the equivalent is now 150,000, I think that there's a strong case for presenting that number. I think a lower number, there's no substantive evidence of why that is being presented other than it's a little bit more and a little bit less. So I think going with the data and sticking with the CPI, the cost differential is a better way to go to present the information.
Thank you. Member Pine.
Thank you. This is very little to do with the previous discussion, but did we catch the typo in the in the header of this item that was set where it says Charter Article 8 instead of Section 31314?
Yeah, I'm seeing
Okay,
staff nod their head yes.
okay. In that case, if we didn't, I was going to propose it as a friendly amendment. But cool, just wanted to make sure.
Good. Okay, looks like those are all the comments. So with that, let's proceed to a vote. City, yes. Oh, yeah, hold on. Member Vickery,
The vote will be with 150 as the number.
that's correct.
Thank you.
With that, City Clerk, please conduct a vote.
First up, Member Vickery, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Wee,
Yes.
Chair Larson,
Yes.
Member Davis,
Yes.
Member Pine. Oh, give me a second. Member Pine,
Yes.
Member Olafson,
Yes.
Member Newswanger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wickham,
Yes.
Member Rubino,
Yes.
and Member Philly.
Yes.
The motion carries 10-0.
Thank you. We've been going a long time. But we're also very close to the end. If people need a bio break, we could do that, or we can just push through. I just want to kind of get a sense of any preferences. Take 5? Anyone else take 5? Okay, we're gonna take let's take a 7-minute recess. And reconvene, 8-minute recess, reconvene at 8:05.
Be 27 years old.
Okay.
How's you?
51.
And we will now reconvene. And we are moving on to Charter Section 1309, Public Works Contracting. So for the subcommittee report, the only real change to the report was to add the proposed language that's in here. The rest of it is essentially what was shared with the committee before. So we will start with questions from committee members before we go to the public. So are there any questions or comments of committee members? Not seeing any. Okay. Then we will go on to the public hearing on this item. City clerk will call members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. City clerk, do we have any in-person participants wishing to speak on this item?
Yes, Chair. First up is Steve S.
Okay, the presentation. Okay, if you go to page 2 of your handout, page 8, my last bullet there should have been under the city manager authority, that 100K adopted. But if you go to page 7 for this, very similar comment to the earlier one, the settlement. I have been able to understand what this design build thing is. I don't know that you're going to be able to convince the voters. You know, it's sort of like we are proposing a trust me. Here's the words, just trust me. And are they going to vote yes or no? So I don't know how to handle that. My last comments here on page 23 to 32 is somehow to simplify it or shorten it or have a executive summary somewhere. But I think that's a risk to something that I think this is a ballot measure is a simple thing. And for those who understand it, should be an okay for a yes. But I'm quite concerned that your voters aren't going to, because they're not used to always doing this. They talk to the landscaper separately from the fence builder and the concrete people and all that. So just keep that in mind. It goes back to what committee member Rubino mentioned is how you educate this without advocating. And please do not advocate. You know, you just can't do it. But that's going to be really important. So even for the simple things, you know, how do you explain this big deal? So that's all. Thanks.
Chair, that was the final in-person public speaker for this portion of this agenda item.
Okay. Seeing no one else in the room wishing to speak, we will go on to remote speakers. Remote speakers are warned to limit their comments to the agenda item being considered. Speakers who are ruled out of order will not be given another chance to speak on this item. This is for agenda item 25-0559, specifically Charter Section 1309. City Clerk, do we have any remote participants wishing to speak on this item?
No, Chair.
So with that, I will close the public hearing. I'll now ask for additional discussion from the committee, leading up to a motion from my colleagues. Any other discussion or questions? Start with Member Davis, followed by Member Vickery.
I'm actually ready to make a motion if we're ready for that.
I think so. Let me just check. Member Vickery, did you have a comment? Just you do. Okay.
So about language, I'll defer.
Okay, we'll come back to. So Member Vickery.
I apologize, but I'm not the one who wrote section 1309, so it's not my fault. There are some problems with the existing language, and I also have some concerns about the language that we're proposing to add, so bear with me. In the beginning paragraph, I think I know it would not be standard to refer to the number. You would just say as provided in this section. So you wouldn't say in this section 1309. And then the standard rule is to stay in the singular. So instead of changing that to projects, you could strike every and say a project involving an expenditure. That would be the way of getting rid of that every that we don't like, because we're going to make some exceptions.
Could you please say where you are? Because I don't know where you are.
I'm on page 30, the box. Yeah. So that would be, do not include the 1309, and then instead of striking every, you'd strike every, but you'd insert a, and you wouldn't change that to a plural. Now, on the next page, there's a sentence that makes me ill that starts, such contracts likewise may be. And so I would propose an amendment to rewrite this, to put it in active voice. And I've given this to, yeah, it's not up on the screen yet. We would amend this sentence to read, without changing anything substantively, the city council may authorize by at least 4 affirmative votes the letting without advertising for bids of contracts that are urgently necessary for the preservation of life, health, or property. And I would put a comma after health, by the way, since I'm being picky. Okay, now in what we're now changing to section B, it's not clear to me at all what the word thereon refers to in the second line. So my best guess would be that we should strike thereon and instead say on bids. So awarding of a contract based on bids. And then shall be needs to be is the, you would normally draft that. So based, yeah, we'd leave based. Yeah, we don't have to, yeah, we don't have to strike based and put it back in. So I would propose that change. And then the language that we're proposing to add, I have some questions. It's generally speaking, legislative drafters are advised not to write notwithstanding clauses. You're supposed to figure out what the conflicts are and then write something that's not inconsistent with other law. I start with the concern that I don't think our charter can say that it supersedes the California Public Contracts Code, which this seems to say. This says notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in the California Public Contracts Code, and I doubt that we can actually do that. If we can't, I don't think our charter can supersede state law. And then notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in this charter, well, if there's something in this charter that's contrary, we ought to find it and fix it. And then, or any other law or regulation of the city of Sunnyvale. If there's any other law or regulation of the city of Sunnyvale, which is going to be now inconsistent with this charter, then the charter supersedes it. So I would suggest that we strike, we do not include the notwithstanding clause for a variety of reasons. And then we go ahead and list all of the alternatives that we're interested in. And then the last line, the last sentence, I believe, should read, the city council shall establish by ordinance regulations, and this is my best guess at what's intended here, for the award, use, evaluation, and approval of these contracts. Because I don't know what authority to approve is referring to. And then I would say these instead of such. So those are my proposed changes.
Giving staff a moment to, yeah, I think we're all caught up. Good. Good. Does that capture your
It
intent?
does.
Good. All right, now we'll go to member Wee.
Thank you again, Member Vickery, for making this actually understandable by normal mortals. Because I was saying, it's a bunch of legalese. Okay. I really appreciate having something I can read and understand. Thank you.
Member Pine.
Well, I think these are all improvements. My big question is, are we going to want to have some explanatory language somewhere about the changes made to A and to the end of A and B? Because like in section back under the vacancies, we included a non-substantive amendment to section 606, and which I will find somewhere. Yeah, we had a it was a technical correction. Yeah, it was a technical correction to 606C, and we basically said that in the recommendation section, sorry, I'm having to jump around a bunch of pages, we say somewhere that why we did it, basically. So I'm just, and I can go through carefully and try to find that, but I'm just wondering if we need to just say somewhere that why we did this, because that my understanding is that those changes are not part of the of authorizing design build. They're just making it better.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wickham, followed by member Vickery.
And to committee member Pine's point, I do agree we should have a sentence or two in the report. And I think the reason that we're doing this is because it is a complicated thing and we need to be able, I mean, it's going to go before voters, especially the, crossed out language. And wherever we can make it make sense, it's more likely to pass. I like these changes.
Member Vickery, followed by member Davis.
As Member Pine mentioned, we did explain on the vacancies a non-substantive change we made. I would suggest that when the motion is made on this section, that we authorize the staff to add an explanation of a non-substantive change that we've made here, just to make this easier to read and understand.
Thank you. Member Davis, followed by member Olafson.
Yeah, I think the non-substantive changes make it easier to understand the substantive changes myself. So I think that's a good rationale to include, because, yeah, I get lost in notwithstanding and thereof myself, and I have a proclivity for using 25 and 50-cent words. So thank you.
Member Olafson.
Yeah, I feel I'm asking for something trivial now, but on page 28, the paragraph labeled D, current charter language, should be C, because D follows on the next page.
Yep. Yeah, there are two Ds and no C.
And that's my substantive change.
All right, any other comments from the committee, suggestions? Vice Chair Wickham.
I just wanted to check with staff and see if they think that these are also non-substantive and if they think these are good changes as well.
Yes.
Yes, good to check that. Yeah, despite my instincts being to touch the existing language as little as possible, I think these do help the voters understand what this section really is saying. So those are good edits. And I agree that it would be good to add a short, probably one sentence explanation that these are clarifying. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but the general gist is these are clarifying, they're non-substantive, and they make it easier to understand.
We can kind of mirror whatever the introductory language in the vacancies section was.
Yeah. Yeah. Member Vickery.
And let's just remember, we don't have to explain the changes we made in C because that's new language we're proposing. So.
That's right. But A and B, for someone who's reading this report for the first time, they're like, well, why is this changing? There's nothing else in here explaining why. So that's good. Okay. I think with that, we are ready for a motion. Who would like to make the motion? Member Davis.
Hey, so my motion is to accept Member Vickery's suggestions for changes, fix the errors that were found by other members, particularly Member Olafson, and empower staff to include explanatory language for the non-substantive changes that we've suggested.
And to clarify, are we also accepting this section of the report together with the summary in section 2?
Yes, and necessary changes to the attachments at the end as well.
Good. Okay. Looking for a second, Member Wee.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Member Davis, to your motion.
Yeah, I like this section the most of the charter changes. It's I hope it's the least controversial, and I think we've ended up in a good place. So please vote for it.
Member Wee, to your second.
Ditto.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I do want to underscore we've had several comments about the importance of communicating with the voters what this is about. This report doesn't go directly to the voters. This report actually has several audiences. It can inform communication to voters, but it's also educating council. It's educating the public when providing when council is deliberating on this. And it's also a historical document, so that future charter review committees can look back and say, why did they do this? So it's good to have a lot of background and context in this report. But I also agree that you wouldn't just take this and share it out to the public because you'd get a lot of glazed eyes. So with that, seeing no other comments, City Clerk, please conduct a vote.
First up, Chair Larson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Olafson.
Yes.
Member Wee.
Yes.
Member Newswanger.
Yes.
Member Davis.
Yes.
Member Vickery,
Yes.
Member Pine,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wickham.
Yes.
Member Rubino,
Yes.
Member Philly.
Yes.
The motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations, everyone. We have approved the report. Staff has their directions, clear direction on the updates to make, but we have concluded our work on this report. It's been a really long road to get here. I think I'm still so much in the process that it's hard to believe that we've actually hit this point, but we have. And I want to thank everyone who's put in a lot of hard work to get here, both in the meetings and outside of the meetings, and public who have made comments and come very well prepared and shared very thoughtful comments. So, and staff working really hard, a lot that happens behind the scenes that we never get to see. So kudos to everyone. And we're just about to go on to non-agenda items and comments. But if you have a comment on this item, we'll go to Member Wee and then followed by Member Rubino.
And we mentioned.
Member Wee.
Are we going to sign this report here tonight, or sign a sheet that you then attach, or not?
Thank you, Chair, if I may. Actually, that's why I had my light on, because I did hear, we can definitely offer electronic signatures. But if people wants to do real signatures, we can also make the report available for people to either come into the city clerk's office and sign it once we finalize it. This is clearly still a draft, so I mean, you can sign it as, a memory. But we will have the official report. We will notify all the committee members when it's ready. And again, for those of you that want to do electronic signatures, that will be available. For those of you who want to do a wet signature, we can work with you to have it available at the city clerk's office.
Great.
And I'll just note too, that if there's maybe not all 10 of you, but if a few of you wanted us to stop by, visit you, you're all in Sunnyvale, we could arrange that too, if you can't make it easily to the clerk's office.
Oh, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Member Rubino.
Yeah, I'm kind of picky because I'm in advertising, and I didn't really like how it looks with the formatting. So is there some way that we could we could see a draft before it's presented and I give our input in terms of what it looks like?
The
Like,
format
if you look at the appendices, the next page, it has I think the survey, and it has table of contents too, and then the rest of the page is blank. It's like it's not very pretty. So I mean, I think you can make it more attractive.
And we can do that. Again, there's certain styles that we can follow, but we will double check all the attachments to make sure that it's appropriately labeled. And again,
Yeah, and the indentations are you've got hanging chads, hanging participles.
good feedback. We will definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you. And Member Vickery.
I think it's important that the thanks include the able leadership of the chair and the vice chair.
When's the party? When's the party?
Member Newswanger.
I wonder if we have a date in February when you think we'll be presenting to council.
I was going to wait for non-agenda items, but I can definitely jump in right now. We are tentatively looking, and I was chatting with the city manager just right now, tentatively looking at the agenda for February 3rd. We were trying to wait to see till the end of the meeting if we did complete our work or if we had to come back. But since we did such a good job, we are looking at February 3rd as a potential date.
So with that, we'll actually wrap up this item and move on to non-agenda items and comments. Do any committee members have any other non-agenda items or comments? Let's see, Member Wee.
It's been a pleasure serving on this committee, and I'd like to thank you all for your excellent job. Thank you.
Triple ditto. Anyone else? Okay, let's go on to staff. Any staff non-agenda comments or items?
We talked about this for next steps. Again, just as everyone said, really thank you to the committee. It's been a great working with you, and I'm proud of the product that we all put together, our collective effort to make this happen. The next steps is we will have a joint meeting with the city council. Like I said, we're looking at February 3rd. I will be able to confirm that in the next week or so. And we will finalize the report. I wanted to suggest that we can have the chair review it before, if everyone is comfortable with that, just give it one final review before we finalize it and put it in the packet. And then it would be, the council meeting would be similar to what we did in June, where everybody is there representing the committee with the council. And as a reminder, this is your recommendation to the city council, right? The city council will have the final say as to which items they do want to move forward with and put forth for a ballot. If they ask you to do a little bit more work on one item, that's something that they could do in February. But then when council decides to do this, there is going to be a very robust community engagement, public polling. It's not just going to be that, this is what we're going to take forward. So I just want to make sure that we know that you might still be seeing a lot of this work continue. But again, thank you so much for your work. Really, it's been great working with you all.
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify with staff, since normally a committee lasts until its work is done, like when exactly, like how much longer does the committee exist? Specifically because we are subject to the Brown Act. So how much longer are we subject to the Brown Act?
So technically, since you haven't submitted your final report to the city council, you're still subject to the Brown Act until you submit your report to the council and the council officially releases you.
Good, okay.
Yeah, I'll just note, right? So it's not even just publishing the staff report for whichever date that is, right? When council considers this, there's a possibility they would say, we really like all of this. Can you all meet again and look at a certain thing? So just that's not that likely to happen, but it is a potentiality. So just know that that is out there before council says, yes, thank you. This is fantastic. We'll take it from here and figure out what we're going to put on the ballot.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be prepared for that. See, I thought I saw some lights and then they went away.
It's been a pleasure.
Just bring it back to the committee if there's anything else anyone wanted to say. I don't think so. So, yeah. So as was just clarified, we're technically not quite done, but we are done. I think we're done. And holy cow, it's been a great ride. Really, really happy to have had all of you here. I'm just so impressed with the collection, the breadth of skills and the breadth of perspectives. There are really a lot of different perspectives that we've brought here. And thank you for working together so well, both at subcommittee level and the committee level. I know it's been a number of very long meetings. We're all very passionate about this, and that's a good thing. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you and good night.
So have you ever met the people that do